Hey, what do you feel about breaking down the Steelers draft this year, man? You want to have a little fun?
Yeah, we might as well see what they do. I mean, it's all just throwing, we're just all spitballing anyway. So, but we get to see for real, coming up on Thursday.
Oh, it's going to be such a good draft. I'm so excited. This draft is loaded with talent. Welcome to Six Rings and Counting. I'm your host, Corey Idle. The man sitting next to me, as always, sitting next to me via Zoom, is our man on injured reserve right now, Mr. Lou Willard. Lou, everybody wants to know, is that knee going to be ready for training camp?
You know what? Unfortunately, it's not. I've talked to Tomlin, and I could come back from the two ACLs, but the full knee replacement, it just isn't going to work out. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they actually sent me my one-day contract, man. So I'm going to retire a Steeler.
All right. Look, man, that's all we wanted to hear. That you go out, it's like you made it to heaven, but you're there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm only just over 3 weeks out of this thing. Yeah, so this is going to be a minute, but I am driving already, so that's good.
All right. Keep your eye out for that luber. If you need a ride, your man's got you.
Haven't started that yet, because if somebody need me to get in and out too many times, it's a wrap.
All right, I feel that. Hey, what do you feel about breaking down the Steelers draft this year, man? You want to have a little fun?
Yeah, we might as well see what they do. I mean, it's all just throwing, we're just all spitballing anyway. So, but we get to see for real, coming up on Thursday.
Oh, it's going to be such a good draft. I'm so excited. This draft is loaded with talent. And I know a lot of other shows you guys might be watching out there, they'll do a full mock draft. They'll go through every team. We don't care about any other team. 31 teams can go swimming for all we care. We care about one team here. We're doing the Steelers, which means we are simulating every pick, every trade, everything that happens is up to the computer with this. We have nothing to say with it except for who the Steelers take. So
exactly.
You ready to live your Omar Khan fantasy life?
He need to go ahead and call me. I can help him out.
I don't know if he needs much help, but we're going to find out right now if he does. I know he watches. We're started the simulation. I saw Caleb went first. Just letting it roll through in light speed for us. Rams took a little time. Okay. So we are up with our pick. They are suggesting we take Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo, Troy Fatnow, offensive tackle out of Washington, or Byron Murphy, the second defensive tackle out of Texas. So far, I can tell you that ESPN Analytics, who is providing this draft server for us, they know what the Steelers need. The one thing I think they are negating is right there with the man we've talked about before, Jackson Powers Johnson. That is a Steeler if there ever was one.
Yeah, just because of the way they want to play, I see them going line. This thing could fall a couple different ways, but this pick here, I would go Jackson Powers Johnson, though, in the first round. I've said that on prior shows, so I'm not going to change now. But I could easily see them taking Amarius Mims, Nate Wiggins, or Brian Thomas Jr., because if Brian Thomas Jr. is sitting here at this spot and in this particular mock, he wasn't. But if he is, it wouldn't shock me if they took him with the first pick and came back and got a center with the second round pick. But for purposes of what we're doing right now, he was gone. Jackson Powers Johnson is there, and that's our pick in the first round of 20.
Boom. Done. Now, one thing I will bring up while we're waiting for that pick to actually load on the incredibly slow internet I have seen some situations where they have taken a tackle, being the Steelers in mock drafts, have taken a tackle. And then in the second round came back and got Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia. Do you think that's plausible?
It's very plausible, especially if they really like Amarius Mims because of how big he is. and his upside. They said he's not ready now, but he has tremendous upside. And I think that's the only reason they kept Dan Moore around was if they do take a tackle that needs to wait a couple games, Dan Moore has to be able to give them, a few games here and there to be able to get the other kid ready. And then he doesn't have to get ready on the right side, the left side. He gets to go to the right side and move Jones over to the left side where he belongs. Dan Moore can go be a third tackle, and they could come back and go, they can get center in the second round. The Steelers fan base will not be upset about that because what's been their weakness has been their offense. It hasn't been their defense. So if they can pick up a corner and a wide receiver in the rounds 3 and 4, then that's a perfect draft for them.
No, that's beautiful for them. I mean, you couldn't complain about it if they went that way. And if it's possible for that to fall in that way, for them to be able to go tackle center, dude, with Broderick Jones over there, you're set. You got your two tackles, you got your center. And now you can worry about maybe next year drafting 2 new guards. You got the youngest, baddest offensive line running. What is there to complain about there?
And they're huge. And they are some big human beings. And the Steelers want to be physical and run the ball. So that's a logical 2 first picks. And then keep in mind, they do have 4 picks inside the top 100. So if they wanted to go tackle center, they could combine those other 2 picks and move up to get the best corner. They could move one of those second round picks with a 5 and pick up the best corner left or the best wide receiver left. Because the draft is so wide receiver deep, I think the 3rd pick needs to be a corner because you can get a wide receiver. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that will be there and that'll be, I think, reliable for you.
Yes, the guy I'm eyeballing is I don't know if you heard of this guy before, Jerry Rice. He has a son in this draft.
Yeah, Brendan.
Named Brendan. And that young man looks like a Steeler. That's all I'm going to say.
He does. His biggest problem is consistency catching the ball right now. But I mean, you would think that could be helped out. And, who was throwing it to him? Well, how many of the Caleb's balls was he dropping? You know what I mean? Or was he playing with one of the guys that did not work out at USC? But still, the ball hit your hands. You're playing at USC, catch the ball. It has nothing to do with who your dad is, man. You play for USC, big time school, ball hit your hands, catch it. You're expected to catch it. But he has the size, the physicality and everything. He's to make up for he's a perfect Steeler, just like Keon Coleman, for out of Florida State. I would love to see him get the kid out of Georgia, lad. I forget his last name.
Oh, but McCourty or something ridiculous.
McCourty, something like that. Yeah, I would love to see him get him, but I don't think he'll be there because I think he's going to be better than people think than people rate me. Which I shouldn't say that though. Some people have him going high first round or high second round. So I don't think he'll be there in the 3rd round for the Steelers unless they make a move up to get him.
No, I think in the 3rd round you're probably looking at, like you said, Keon Cole out of Florida State. Damn, why am I forgetting all these names? Seals or whatever out of Florida.
You got another kid out of Texas.
Yeah, he's a dog too. Breaking down the 1st round real fast. It's the only round I'll break down because it's just too much fun. It is a quarterback and wide receiver fest. Williams goes to the Bears, no surprise. Drake May, I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots take McCarthy because
and it's a mistake.
It's a huge mistake. What are you talking about?
I mean, they talk about all the kid does is win. Yeah, by handing the ball off.
Yeah, exactly.
What game did JJ? And yes, I'm a homer because everybody know my ties with Ohio State. But what games did he win with his arm? And I'm not saying throw the ball 45 times because, that's not my style of football anyway. Sure. So this world is an adjustment to me. But what game has he thrown them to a win? I just don't see it. I just think it's a mistake. And it's something I can see the Patriots, especially if Bill was still there. If Bill was there, they'd take Bo Nix.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to catch – if they take J.J. McCarthy, they're simply trying to catch lightning in a bottle. Twice,
but you take McCarthy. You take McCarthy and pass on Jalen Daniels. I mean, that's stuff to cost you your job.
Yep.
Because I think Jaden Daniels is going to be good.
Yeah, he needs some time, but he's going to be really good.
But that's just it. So, completely getting us off topic, but these teams got to quit taking these guys, running them out there and saying they're no good in 2 years when you didn't put anybody around them.
Facts. Unless their name is Justin Fields and they end up on a beautiful 1-year contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then try and ruin that dude's career.
But he suffered. This is about to be his fourth coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't put anybody around. Now the Bears have talent, but guess what? He's gone, and here comes Caleb Williams. So now you'll get a fair assessment of him because he has some guys to throw the ball to.
Yep.
But hey, it is what it is. It's the league.
Let's get this draft back on track. We'll get it going here again. We're in the second round. We're in the second round now. Rolling through. We're coming up on pick 51 for the Eagles. Brandon Fisk is our suggested pick at defensive tackle out of Florida State. Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M at linebacker. Or for some reason, Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, who is a good running back, but a position we do not need to fill.
Do not currently need one right now.
There's the young man I was talking about, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida.
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida.
Troy Franklin, Roman Wilson out of Michigan. Those are our 3 receivers they're giving us. Let's see, cornerback. Max Melton out of Rutgers, Cam Hart out of Notre Dame, or Mike Sandersill out of Michigan. Too many Michigan players in this draft for 2 Ohio State guys doing a draft.
But you know what though, if you're looking at this, like I would be tempted to take Tavondre Sweat as the huge defensive tackle out of Texas. Because I still think those corners are going to be comparable to the corners that you see later in the round when Pittsburgh picks again. All of them won't be gone. This big dude might be. Now, the issues with him, some off the field stuff like his weight. If they can keep his weight under control, but Pittsburgh's handled that before. You remember a guy named Casey Hampton whose helmet still don't fit. Helmet never did fit. But look what he did. He clogged up that middle, and if you can put this guy in the middle beside Cam Hayward, and with that edge rushers, you got to. I mean, no one's running inside the guards. Like the guard to guard is closed off with this guy in the middle right there, and that's going to be huge in that division when you're going to be facing a returning Nick Chubb. And I know people get tired of hearing me talk about Nick Chubb, but I don't care. If he gets back, I hope he does get back to where he was. But then you still got to face these running games in the AFC North they're brutal. It's a brutal style of football. So I would like to see him take a Sweat right here. That wouldn't bother me at all. No,
and him being able to not have to start and sit behind Cam and learn from Cam, and Cam was potentially Cam's last year is massive.
He could play beside him. But the thing is, with having Ogunjobi and them guys in there too, he don't have to start and play every down. So even though his weight may be a problem and his conditioning may be an issue at times, he doesn't have to play all 3 downs.
Exactly.
He don't have to play every series. So he has no business wearing out. And they'll whip it just like any NFL team. They think if they take him, they think they can whip him into shape.
Oh, absolutely. It's a NFL guys, when they talk about weight and things like that, it's a lot like boot camp. They'll put the weight on you or they will take it off of you. Don't worry about it. It's a matter of your desire to stay on the team most of the time. We are rolling into the 3rd round. Picks are jumping off the board. I haven't seen any trades to speak of. 3rd round, pick 84. The computer is suggesting we take Cedric Gray, linebacker out of North Carolina, which I know how you feel about taking some of these guys out of smaller schools. Brandon Dorlus out of Oregon, or Trey Benson, running back out of Florida State.
Well, you can cancel the running back. And then I just North Carolina guys, they don't play a physical style of football. So I don't see where they would mesh coming into Pittsburgh. Hell, the ACC is not even a physical conference. So I'm just not high on guys like that going to, teams that traditionally play physical. play in a physical division. So it's hard to get them. That's why you see a lot of these teams in the AFC North. They have a lot of SEC and Big Ten players because it's physical. Yes. I mean, plus they're the best players in the country.
Especially on the offensive and defensive lines. Those guys are big.
And that's why I really love our first two picks, even though Texas is new to the SEC. The guy is huge. He's physical. We talked about the lineman. He's physical. So they're just getting big and physical up front. And that's all the Lions did. The Lions have arguably the best line in the league, and look how fast they got back. But, with this election, I mean, I would look at a corner. I mean, like this Cam Hart guy, he has some solid stuff on tape, even though he comes out of the ACC, but they're a pass-happy league. So he's seen a lot of the stuff. And he hung pretty well against Ohio State too. So it wouldn't shock me. But if he can play the man-to-man style that the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to be running more nowadays, there used to be a lot of zone. That's why Brady used to light them up. All they ever played was zone. But now, with having a JPJ on one side, if this Cam Hart guy could come in and, keep Corey Trice healthy, we picked up a corner in the trade. You should be able to run against these teams, and he would help us, especially if he's going to come up and tackle. Because you got to come up and tackle if you're going to play for Pittsburgh.
I like it. So let me ask you this, just for fun. I mentioned it before. We got to look at it. We know receiver is another position we're going to need to fill eventually. And for the record, we're only doing 3 rounds here. Lou said earlier, the 4 through 7, there are so many trades, and it is such a CF of an absolute mess of a draft that there's no need.
The show's not long enough. If we were doing, a different style of podcast where we could go a few hours, you could go to full 7 rounds, but you're never going to get it done in the time frame that we're looking at. But I mean, if you're looking at this pick, and which will be our last one, it'd be Cam Hart, Brendan Rice. I still think we might be able to get him in the 4th. I think we might be able to wait to pick on him.
I think you're right. This is such a deep receiver class that even if you don't, you have Jalen Polk ranked 9 positions lower. You have Javon Baker out of UCF, a smaller school still, but speed is speed. Receivers are all a little bit different. You don't have to be as physical, though you do in Pittsburgh.
A lot of Pittsburgh's, Antonio Brown came out of Central Michigan. I mean, Pittsburgh will get you out of a small school for that particular position. And even at running back, they'll get guys out of smaller schools. But the bottom line is if he can run the routes, then he can run the routes and block. They'll pick him up. But I just think that you can get Brandon Rice, or Brendan Rice a little bit later. You might be able to get him in the 4th round.
I totally agree with you.
Plus, when you're looking at this mock, it's hard to tell. Like, if I could see what the teams that Pittsburgh have to beat were taking, that would help me decide between Cam Hart because then I might take Rice if they're just pouring all the receivers off the board.
Right.
But that's one thing when you're mocking. That's why mocks are mocks.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, look, ultimately I was playing devil's advocate with the receiver, just taking a look. But the value of Cam Hart here in the 3rd round at pick 84, that's just too good to pass up. You have to take that.
When the browser catches up, we'll take him.
Yeah, there we go. So slow. So preview for us, because the draft is going to be wrapping up here now. Preview for us what you see for the next couple rounds here, 4 through 7. Are we trading a lot? Are we going after more picks? Are we trying to pick up a veteran or two? What do you see us really doing in these later rounds?
I think they have enough veterans that they picked up in the offseason. With the veterans they already have on the squad, they got to make sure they get a little younger. So I don't really see them. I mean, there's still the rumors about trading for Brandon Ayuk. I think a lot of that, if it happens, is going to happen during the draft, or it's going to happen right after the draft, where you took some players that they might want, like basketball does it. You draft this guy, we'll get this guy, then we'll trade, and you get this, that, or the other. But so that's still a possibility. It's a long shot because of the money. You got to pay him. And then you got George Pickens that's going to need paid. And then you have Justin Fields is going to be paid. You don't run all them into the same year. You can only tag one. You got to pay the other one. Then somebody going to be pissed off. And we know how receivers are. You need two diva receivers pissed off at you at the same time. But so you got to kind of watch that. But I see them getting, because they still need a linebacker. But I like the kid, Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State. He's a solid. All he do is make tackles. That's all he does. It's nothing flashy. He's not. You'll find out for sure. But who's the linebacker for out of Iowa that went to Detroit? I can't call his name, but he's a poor man, Jack Campbell. He's a poor man's Jack Campbell. So, because Jack Campbell's a tackling machine. So he's a poor man's Jack Campbell that could turn into a Jack Campbell because he's good. He's good sideline to sideline. I'm not sure about his pass coverage skills, which would take him off the field on third down. But that's why you picked up the corners that you did. You put them in. You can leave Patrick Queen in, and you're not really missing anything. But you put a guy like Eichenberg behind Sweat, if this draft goes the way we think it will, you got a nice run stoppers right there, man. So they could do that. They will pick up receivers. I could see them. I still think they'll get Rice. I just think it'll be in the fourth round, or they'll get I forget the kid's name out of Texas, but they'll get him, Keon Coleman. But the big shocker would be if Brian Thomas falls to them in the first round. I think they'll take him even over the center and the tackle. Because then you don't need another. All bets are off at receiver after that. You got to pound the line. So
right, you're not guessing.
It's going to be real interesting to see exactly what they do and what they have. But this would be the first draft that I actually sit down and watch. Part of it because of my knee, but partly is because I do want to see what everybody does, and I want to see some of these teams are going to make. I see some of these players, I'm like, you're just taking them too high. And then I think a guy that's going to be good, and I've changed my opinion on this over the years, is Bo Nix. And I think you can get him. I think you can get him in the second. You can get him in the second, and you might be able to get him in the third.
Oh, yeah. I think guys like Bo Nix, I think this is going to be a really interesting draft with quarterbacks to see who does jump at the prospect of a project like a McCarthy or like a Michael Penix, who I think are going to take a little time to get really going, or a guy like Bo Nix, who I think could really shock a lot of people and start right now and win games right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's 20.
I'm convinced Drake May is going to fall. I'm convinced Drake. Yeah, he's got the maturity to get in there and understand it. I think Drake May is probably the biggest bust potential at this point.
Well, I would say J.J. McCarthy, based on how high they're talking about he's going.
That's fair.
I mean, because I didn't even see him in the first round. No. I just didn't even see him as a first-round talent, which would be great for him. Or if he went 25 to 32, great for him. I wouldn't be talking like this about him because I don't know him as a person. So I don't like the kid individually, dislike the kid. But just as a top 5 pick, and they say maybe top 10, 11 at the latest, that's way too high. Way too high. When you could get him, if he goes to, and it does him no disservice. I mean, I'm sorry, it does him a disservice. Taking 25 to 32, and he has a chance. Why? Because he's going to a team that made the playoffs. He don't have to play this year, obviously. And he has a chance to watch, and then he has a chance. And that's what's going to help Bo Nix, because somebody is liable to trade up late in the first round and take him at 30, 31, or 32, traded at that spot, taking simply because they'll get the 5th-year option on him. And for him, he'll be 31 or 32 years old when that comes up. So you don't have to give him but one really big contract at that time. Make it, if he's doing that well, make that contract 10 years. He's 41. Get him out after that contract. So it's a brilliant move for somebody if he works out, which I think he will, because he didn't look great at Auburn, but look at the coaching. And those coaches are gone. But he looked great at Oregon, but look at the talent, look at the coaching, the system. So if somebody takes him that's going to fit that system, you can't take him and put him in a smash mouth system and expect him to look like he looked at Oregon, because it's not the same system. So don't take him if you're going to completely do something different. That go for any of these guys. That's why they shouldn't reach for these quarterbacks so high. If the Bears aren't going to run what Caleb Williams has been running, leave the man alone and let somebody else take him that well. Same thing with McCarthy.
The one.
Like, yeah, I don't. Like I say, I don't like Michigan, but the kid will stand better if he falls later to the late first half of the draft because those teams are in the playoffs.
Right. No, you're 100% right. The only thing I've disagreed with you so far on is the Bo Nix contract discussion because everything sounded good unless he gets Kirk Cousins' agent. Then you are paying this dude multiple contracts, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not good.
Kirk Cousins has made $400 million and got one playoff win. One. And they're talking about he's better than Russell Wilson. Yes, at contract negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot tell. I'm like, this dude that made, look, kudos to that brother. He got paid.
Yeah,
and just got paid again and was able to go back home. His wife was able to go back home. I said, boy, oh boy, howdy. And he was the second quarterback drafted by that team in that draft. Remember, RG3 went first. Kirk Cousins got drafted in the fourth round.
Mm-hmm.
Now, RG3 is doing well for himself in life. He's not, wondering where his next gallon of milk coming from, but he ain't made $400 million.
Yeah. Yeah, what Kirk Cousins has pulled off is like the heist of the century. It's like Goodfellas when they robbed Lufthansa. It's unbelievable.
Man, this cat done robbed them all with no mask and no gun.
You know who he didn't rob, though? Omar Khan. You ain't getting over on Omar Khan like that.
Shoot.
So let me ask you this real quick before we wrap up, bringing it back to the Steelers. Obviously, you and I are very high on them taking a center first if it is the right guy.
Yeah, which will be either Jackson or it'll be Graham, one of the two, those first names, Barton or Powers, Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yep, out of Duke. There are some rumors that the Steelers are still looking heavily into free agency to fill that position. So let me list off these 5 free agents. Just see if they spice you up any as much as a potential first-round pick. Connor Williams, Connor McGovern, Tyler Larson, James Ferentz, and, of course, Mason Cole.
Well, I mean, if they sign him back, I would be disappointed. You got rid of him for a reason. You bring him back at a serious discount. But the Connor Williams, I believe, off the top of my head, he's the one coming off an injury, right?
Correct.
So
I think he was in Dallas and McGovern was in Miami or vice versa.
Yeah, the one in Miami is who I would want. And if they were able to do that, then that allows you to go ahead and get Mims if he's available, or that receiver, or then even go a Nate Wiggins if you wanted to in the first round if he fell to you, because you don't have to worry about the center position, but you can get the tackle. And it just frees you up. And then the way these guys are coming off the street, so you don't even have to trade for them.
Right. And it's getting late, so you might be able to get them at a discount too, given how late it is in the offseason. I mean, it sets up to make a lot of financial sense. Long term, me personally, the way this league runs, I want the young guys.
Exactly. So if you're taking one of these guys, I'm telling you, you're taking one for a year, and then you're still drafting, because there's 4 or 5 centers that popped up, but really the 2 stand out that we just been talking about. But if you can pick one of those other 3 up in the 4th round, you don't have anything to lose because you got a center and a backup center. You were able to get your tackle, so you're solid. And then, like I said, Dan Moore's got to figure out if he wants to play football or not. You can't be the lowest rated left tackle in the league and be in the league. It just doesn't work like that. So, but
especially on this team and the way this team is built. This team is not built to have somebody go out there and just play. Sorry, it's just not. It's not compatible with what we're trying to do right now.
And in all fairness, none of the 32 teams are. If you're out there, you got to be a dog.
Right.
I mean, first off, Dan Moore is an excellent football player. Mm-hmm. He starts in the National Football League. There's not many of
100%.
those jobs. So,
100%.
but compared to the league average at his position, he happens to be the worst of the 32. And that's, look, y'all take him. We don't want the worst of the 32 where we at. So I can see him getting pushed out with Mims coming in, or they'll take another big tackle. I mean, there's 5 or 6 nice tackles that you can get in the first round. One of them will be there, just due to the fact that all the quarterbacks are going to be gone. 4 or 5 receivers are going to be off the board. So you can't possibly have all 5 or 6 tackles gone by the time they get to pick 20. Somebody's going to be sitting there.
Yep. And the way this draft is built, there's going to be about 5 or 6 startable somebody sitting there ready to go at tackle.
Exactly. Oh, there's some starters.
Yeah, there's some starters. It's loaded. It's going to be exciting. Before we get off the air here and sit down and get our popcorn ready for this draft, what is your prediction, Lou? Anything exciting? Anything crazy going to happen? Are the Steelers going to make a big trade? What are we going to do? What's going to be the bomb? Or is it just going to be perfection?
I think the Steelers are all traded out. Only big trade I can see them making is with Brandon Ayuk. I wouldn't be shocked to see him sign Justin Simmons, or did he already sign somewhere? I don't think he
signed
did
anywhere yet.
But he's mentioned that he wouldn't mind going to play for Pittsburgh. I'm like, well, really, who wouldn't? Because everybody likes Tomlin, player-wise. But it wouldn't shock me to see them bring in a Justin Simmons or a Brandon Ayuk. That'd be about the biggest splash you get. Other than that, I think they're going young because they're trying to turn this roster over to make it Omar Khan's and not Kevin Colbert's.
Totally agree with everything you just said. I think Omar Khan has a plan. I think he's sticking to it. It is very clear the direction they're going. It's just a matter now of what order of players they pick up in this draft.
That's it. It's just a matter of how they want to go about it. But he has a plan, and I think the plan is to get bigger, younger, and more physical. I mean, and fast. Everybody wants to be faster, but he has a plan. He's sticking to it.
There you go. Omar Khan and God. They got plans. Stick to them. For Lou Willard, I'm Corey Idle. We will catch you next time on 6 Rings and Counting.